Hello, BookTube. I have a little bit of mail for you today on very bright, very chilly Tuesday. It looks like this is the last really pretty blue sky settled day before what looks to me like a week of hit or miss weather. There's a big system. You can see it clear as day. If you download any of the free weather or radar apps, you can see systems all across the country, and very interesting to do. And it is moving in this direction. And it could result in snow. Not much snow, I'm sure, but some. But today was nice and clear and perfect for long dog walks, which was exactly what happened. Yesterday, not so much. Yesterday was blustery, and the bean doesn't like the wind. It messes with her beautiful hair. Well, I've got some mail for you here, and unfortunately, the horrible trend of packages being opened off camera partially happened again. So some packages opened together, and a couple that we can just go through. I made a point of not looking at them because I realized what I had done. So the first one is from Soho Crime. The great folks at Soho Crime. They've got a great crew at Soho. Always a nice feeling. Once upon a time, it was the norm. 60 years ago, 70, 50 years ago, it was the norm that each individual publishing house you'd be able to tell how good their bench of editors and acquiring editors were by the finished work. There was no corporate homogeneity. You could very much tell back then, a long time ago, when you were holding an FSG book or a Random House book or especially a W.W. Norton book. In ways, even in the 21st century, some aspects of that survive, where you know when a house is currently really being helmed by terrific people who are making the right choices, really good, interesting, smart choices. Another example, a perfect example, would be the University of Chicago Press. But this is Soho Crime, and this is a novel by Gary Phillips called One Shot Harry, which here I'm sure is going to be retro cool on M Street in South Boston half a century ago. That was a popular term, but it was derision. It was a term of derision. And this has a little book, a little reader's guide associated with it. I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is supposed to be like... oh my God, it is. This is a complete reader's guide. A breakdown of the book, a breakdown of the author, all sorts of discussion questions. Oh my, even a glossary of characters. This is going out to reviewers. It'd be one thing if this were going out with the book to readers, but this is going to reviewers. That's pretty depressing. I do not need a reader's guide to a book. Thank you very much. I myself am the reader's guide to a book. So let's just look at the book itself. This is... let's see here. I don't have a sheet other than a big booklet that's supposed to take me by the hand and walk me through a book. So we'll just read from the book. Rather nice cover design there, an old camera. So this is set in Los Angeles in 1963. African-American Korean War veteran Harry Ingram earns a living as a news photographer at occasional process server, chasing police radio calls and dodging baseball bats. With racial tensions running high on the eve of Martin Luther King's Freedom Rally, Ingram risks becoming a victim at every crime scene he photographs. Okay, well, as far as picking just a basic setting that already is charged with drama, this author has hit it out of the park. That is incredible. The time, the occupation, the place, that is just incredible. I'm interested already. I don't even know what adventures Harry Ingram is going to get into. When Ingram hears a call over the police scanner to the scene of a deadly automobile accident, he recognized the vehicle described as belonging to his good friend and old army buddy, the white jazz trumpeter Ben Kinslow, with whom he only just reconnected. The LAPD declares the car crash an accident, but when Ingram develops his photos, there are signs of foul play. Ingram feels compelled to play detective, even if it means putting his own life on the line. Armed with his wits, his camera, and occasionally his Colt 45, Harry Ingram plunges headfirst into the seamy underbelly of LA society, tangling with racists, leftists, blackmailers, gangsters, zealots, and lovers, all in the hope of finding something resembling justice for a friend. I'm on board. Absolutely on board. So let's give you some practical details here. So this comes out in April. One Shot Harry comes out in April. I'm assuming from the title that this is the first book in the series. And I'm not even sure. Maybe this is the first book by the author. no mention. Let's find out who Gary Phillips is when he's at home. He has published novels, comics, novellas, and short stories, and edited or co-edited several anthologies, including the Anthony-winning The Obama Inheritance. Okay, so this is not his first book, but it may be the first book in this series. Almost 30 years after its publication, his debut, Violent Spring, was named one of the essential crime novels of Los Angeles. I don't think I've ever read Violent Spring. I wonder if Soho Crime has the rights to it. Or maybe there's a cheesy old paperback out there somewhere that I could find for $1. He also works as a story editor on Snowfall, an FX show about crack and the CIA in 1980s South Central, where he grew up. Okay, no mention here if there are other Harry Ingram novels, but I'm on board for the one I have, that's for sure. Let me put this to one side, and I will reinsert the careful reader's guide. First time I've ever got a book with Cliff Notes. That's kind of amazing. Then this next one, the last of the opened books, I violated our trust by opening some books off camera, is by Neil Cherkowski, and it is a biography of Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Skinny thing, so obviously not the big, fat, 1,000-page definitive thing that we'll get at some point for sure. And there's no date on this, or rather there's no pub sheet on this. The date is April. This comes out in April. So you Ferlinghetti fans, this is, I think, the third biography of him, and this will be coming out in the spring. But let's just read from the advance notice here. When Neil Cherkowski's Ferlinghetti, a biography, appeared in 1979, it was the first biography ever published about an already legendary poet, publisher, bookseller, activist. Okay, I might have been thinking of Cherkowski's book as one of the earlier biographies, when really it was the same thing. This is just an updated edition. This expanded edition, renamed Ferlinghetti A Life, includes a new foreword, epilogue, and afterword. The foreword alone makes this new edition a cause for revelry. Quote, it's titled From the City of Angels to the City of Poets, and it tells the hilarious story of how the biography came to be written. From Neely's arrival in San Francisco in 1974 and getting fired from the mayoral campaign of George Moscone, to how his chance meeting with Chicago 7 rabble-rouser Jerry Rubin at the famed Beat Coffee House played a pivotal role in this book's existence. Ferlinghetti died in February of 2021 at the age of 101. And this book is a celebration of his life. So this is the sort of biography of Ferlinghetti. Okay, if I knew the Beat scene better, I would have remembered the author's name, but I don't. Okay, so this is a reprint. This is coming out from who? Who's doing this? Godine Press. Black Sparrow Press, Godine. Okay. So, I mean, obviously this was put on the books for release in the spring because Ferlinghetti just died. But there will be other books, the usual full dress and trumpets and timpani type official lives that will be 5 times the size of this thing. Neat to have this back, though, and in an updated version so that you don't feel like you're just buying the same thing all over again. Hi, Bean. Oh. And then we have the packages that we haven't already opened. So let's discover these together. Starting with this first one, which is a finished copy of something. Let's see. The mail is trying to kill me. It was only a matter of time. Cue the next AuthorTube anthology. That's a story right there. Let's see. Oh, okay, great. All right, this is the finished copy of something we've already seen. That's going to be happening. Most of the finished copies we get will be of stuff that we've already seen. This is John Darnielle, the author of Wolf in White Van and Universal Harvester. 2 really, really good novels. This is a really, really good novelist, even though he's a musician. And this is the finished copy of Devil House, which is out from FSG. So just in case you missed it the first time, let's go over this again. This comes out in a couple of weeks. This is out at the end of January. Wolf in White Van, Darnielle's first full-length novel, terrific book. I reviewed it. If I remember, I'll leave a link down below. Was a National Book Award nominee in 2014, and his second book, Universal Harvester, earned him praise from Ishiguro, among others, who called the book a moving, beautifully etched picture of America's lost and profoundly lonely. The new book is a surprising and thought-provoking novel that begins as the narrative of a seasoned true crime author investigating a decades-old murder before wending its way through some of the stories he has told over the years and ultimately revealing itself to be a novel about stories themselves and who gets to tell them. And I have not got to this yet. Shamefully, since this is on my January shelf. We are in January. We are past the midway point of January. And in addition to all of that, this is an author I like. I still haven't got to it. I've been reading nonstop, reading at an incredible rate. But there are so many books. I will get to it. Then we'll do this next one here. The next two are manila envelopes, not those white vacuum press things. So they may be advanced copies. They may not be finished. Let's see what this first one is. Get rid of the paperwork. Don't need the paperwork. Okay, this is, let's see here. This is a June release, and this is by Juno Dawson, and it's called Her Majesty's Royal Coven. So, fantasy, maybe YA? Let's see here. At the dawn of their adolescence, on the eve of the summer solstice, 4 young girls, Helena, Leonie, Nima, and Ellie, took the oath to join Her Majesty's Royal Coven, established by Queen Elizabeth I as a covert government department. Now, decades later, the witch community is still reeling from a civil war, and Helena is reigning high priestess in the organization. Yet Helena is the only one of her friend group still enmeshed in the state bureaucracy of HMRC. Ellie is trying to pretend she's a normal housewife, and Niami has become a country vet, using her powers to heal sick animals. In what Helena perceives as the deepest betrayal, Leonie has defected to start her own, more inclusive intersectional coven called Diaspora. And now Helena has a bigger problem. A young warlock of extraordinary capabilities has been captured by authorities and seems to threaten the very existence of HMRC. With conflicting beliefs over the best course of action, the 4 friends must decide where their loyalties lie, with preserving tradition or doing what is right. I can already tell you how that plotline is going to go, because who committed the ultimate act of betrayal? Leonie has defected to start her own more inclusive and intersectional coven called Diaspora. There is no way that Leonie can be the villain of this book. There is no way that she also cannot prevail. So when you talk about preserving tradition or doing what is right, it's going to turn out that discarding tradition is, by definition, doing what is right. So I already know how that plotline will resolve itself, but I'm interested in that bit about the warlock. Well, I'm interested in that. And also, of course, one of the big draws of a book like this will be the world building, right? We've got a tiny description of it there, but a large part of how effective this book will be how effective the world building is. So that's fantastic. Wish they hadn't given the game away with the word inclusive. There is no way for a 21st century novel to use that word in any but one way. There's only one way to use that word. There's only one way to write such a character. Leonie will be a saint. Incredibly foul-mouthed. Every other word will be an F-bomb. But also a saint. Nothing that she ever does or ever even tries to think will be in any way anything but perfect. So, and knowing that makes her automatically the most boring of the characters. But we'll see who the others are. Very interested. Who was it? Niam, Niamh, becomes a country vet. That's an interesting plotline right there. But this is June, so it's a little too far off for me to explore, especially since I'm behind. John Darnell should get my attention before anything in June. And then we'll do this last one, and we'll be done for today. Just a little bit of mail today. So we've got a bit more paperwork. Let's see, doesn't need. And then what have we got here? Okay. This is a March release. This is by Rebecca Sherm, and it is called A House Between Earth and the Moon. So what have we got here? Oh no, it's all blurbs on the back. And no sheet. Oh no. Oh my god, no summary either. At the beginning, usually there's a summary, but there isn't even that. There's nothing at all here. I've got a little tagline at the top. The gripping story of one scientist in outer space, another who watches over him, the family left behind, and the lengths people will go to protect the people and planet they love. But that could be anything. It could be Planet of the Apes. This doesn't tell me anything else. I don't want to read blurbs. I'm not interested in somebody else's blurb. Okay, well, you're going to have to Google A House Between the Earth and the Sea, because I don't know what this is. But let's see how it starts, right? We've got a little time. Let's see how it starts. This is the beginning of Chapter 1. Alex had been in space for only 6 days when Carl Boucher, who was a real astronaut, told him to put on his suit and go outside. That's the first sentence. Pretty interesting. What's Alex doing in space for 6 days if he's not a real astronaut? That's pretty interesting right there. Let's move on just a little. We've got a little bit of time. Let's read a little more of this. To, quote, go outside the station was a procedure that Alex had practiced just twice during his summer of training, and that had been in his zero-gravity simulation chamber. Not the same at all. Carl had assured him that this was an emergency training, to be used only in the unlikely event that he needed their assistance. Maybe the others had been disappointed to hear that, but Alex had taken a deep, quiet breath of relief. He hadn't minded Carl's arrogance in this context. It made him feel safe. Me? He asked Carl, now. What about Irma? Malik? They're probably more. They're coming too. Battery refresh. Carl turned away, and when Alex hesitated, Carl turned back, right hand on his belt, where he wore 2 spools of retractable cording with clips at the end. He started to pull out a line and offered the end to Alex. You want a tow? He asked. No, Alex said, and he pushed off the wall behind him to follow, pulling up Carl's training sessions in his phone's archive. Training, ground, spacewalk, unlikely event. He was certain he remembered nothing. When he found it, he sped up the footage at 4 times with captions. 2 Carls now. Carl of the past instructed him, the footage like stained glass over the Carl who floated in front of him. That Carl slid open the door to the suit room. He turned around just as Alex shook his head to stop the video. You'll be fine, Carl said. Inside, their pale, pearly spacesuits were lined up along the wall. Malik and Irma were already getting dressed, and when they looked up to greet Alex, they did not look afraid. They did not look like they were reviewing training footage at 4 times speed. It's happening, Irma sang softly. Alex laughed uncertainly, the only way he laughed lately, and floated toward his own suit. On the wall next to it were 3 numbered packets of underlayers. Malik and Irma were into their second layers already, full-body leotards that covered them from the tips of their fingers and toes up to the tops of their necks. Alex pushed his limbs into the tight tubes and tried to catch up. Don't rush it, Carl reminded him. That only makes it harder. A spacewalk on day 6 was surely rushing it. When all 4 of them were in their complete underlayers, they carefully opened the seals that made their 3-piece spacesuits into one body. Now each suit was a boot pant piece, a torso to glove piece, and a helmet. Remember, Carl said, the suit stays put and you move into it. Legs first. Alex pulled himself up along the ridged wall until he was just above his target, the open waist of his pants. He slid his legs inside, and the pants crunched down with his knees. Carl had to come pull them up for him. But when it was time to put on his top half, Alex had no trouble at all. Malik struggled with his seals, and Irma got her gloves twisted, but Alex slid into his floating, empty astronaut body with ease. He was 9/10 astronaut now. The last tenth required opening the hatch. That's pretty good stuff. That is pretty good stuff. Well, surely we can learn about Rebecca Sherm without, we don't need a publicity sheet for that. That's got to be on here somewhere. Whoa, okay, she gets 1 line. She's the author of Unbecoming, and she lives in California with her family. All right, this is a very unforthcoming advance copy, but that beginning sure has me wanting to read more. I won't, because it's a while off, but that was pretty good. There were a lot of smart decisions being made in that prose. So there you go. That is a half-guilty mail haul for this Tuesday. We have House Between Earth and the Moon. We have Her Majesty's Royal Coven. We have the finished copy of Devil House, which comes out in just a couple of weeks. We have Ferlinghetti, a reprint of Neely Tchaikovsky's biography from years ago. And we have One Shot Harry by Gary Phillips, about a black Korean War veteran making a living in the underbelly of crime in the Los Angeles of 50 years ago, on the eve of Martin Luther King. So fantastic. That is not a bad mail haul. Although, am I right in saying, yes, I'm right in saying that the Ferlinghetti is the only nonfiction this time around. Well, if the fiction's all going to sound this good, then I don't mind. But anyway, that is the mail for today. We'll see what tomorrow brings. I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.